based on consistent principles and integrity. And these are the very qualities that we need today at this time of our national development. And President Mahama, by his conduct, has shown clearly that he's not a leader that you can trust to provide firm, decisive, committed leadership based on principles. Now, we all know that the saying that there's only a fool who doesn't change his mind. And so if somebody, President Mahama, or anybody changes their mind in the face of new facts and so on, it's fine. But when you have such mind changing being a constant, then it becomes a troubling sign in anybody, especially somebody who's looking for the leadership of this country. When you have this consistent changing of mind, literally on a weekly basis, then if you go and elect that kind of leader, you are going to be in trouble. Now, let's look at some of the instances that clearly show that President Mahama is an obey-the-wind leader. Look at the matter of student utility bills. He cancelled it when he was president. Now, President Akufo-Addo came and restored student utility bills. Now, President Mahama says he's all for it. A clear case of a leader who's not committed to his principles. Look at the matter of training allowances for trainee nurses and trainee teachers. President Mahama cancelled it. And he said that even if you lose the elections, he didn't care. It's a matter that he believes strongly in, that it was not the duty of the state to pay these allowances. President Akufo-Addo came. He restored the allowances. What is President Mahama saying today? That now he also believes in the payment of the allowance and he will continue. Clearly not a leader who has firm principles and is prepared to stand by them. He has told us, President Mahama, that he will correct his mistakes. That's why we should give him a second chance. But he has not told us what his mistakes are. We don't know what mistakes he is talking about. So we don't know what he intends to correct. And also, he has not told us how he intends to correct them. Now, if you are a bold leader, asking for a second chance, and you believe you have made mistakes upon which you have been rejected, as a bold leader, you should come out and identify those mistakes clearly and to show how you would correct those mistakes. But the man hasn't told us what mistakes he has made, so we don't know what mistakes he's coming to correct. And he hasn't shown us how he's going to correct those mistakes. And so what is the basis of voting for him on his declaration that he will correct his mistakes? He told us in 2016 that we should beware of promises from opposition politicians because they are not in government and they don't know the reality on the grounds, so they will come and make all kinds of promises. And we should be very careful of those opposition people who come and make promises. So today, President Mahama is in opposition. He is not in government. He is making promises every day. So, judging by his own words in 2016, how do we take the promises being made by opposition leader John Mahama today? You remember he told us in 2016 that 4 years were not enough for any president. And indeed, he touted President Kufuor as very wise because President Kufuor had made that same advocacy. Never mind that President Mahama had spent and the NDC had spent all their time showing Ghanaians how President Kufuor was not a good leader. Now, President Mahama told us in 2016 that President Kufuor was actually a very sensible man because President Kufuor had said that 4 years were not enough. And on that basis, President Mahama was asking Ghanaians to renew his mandate so he could do 8 years. He said he had built the foundation and that if you go and bring somebody who doesn't know how the foundation was built, how can that person build on the foundation? So if 4 years are not enough for a president, as President Mahama told us, why does he think that we should remove President Akufo-Addo today? A clear case of inconsistency in a leader. President Mahama has assured us this year that if we elected him, he was going to pay the funds of Ghanaian depositors in the banks who, because of the dissolution of those banks, were in danger of losing their monies. Of course, now President Akufo-Addo has taken steps to ensure that all those Ghanaian depositors have been paid, except a few. But President Mahama has said that he was going to pay those depositors in 1 year if we voted for him. But the records show that he doesn't believe in what he's telling us about. Because you remember the crisis happened in President Mahama's time as president. What did he do? He paid out billions of Ghanaian cedis to the bank owners and the shareholders whose conduct had caused the banks to fail in the first place. President Mahama chose to pay billions to them in an effort to bail them out. His general secretary said that as for the depositors, there was nothing for them because if they had made their investment decisions, that is their own matter. You remember? And of course, President Mahama looked on whilst his general secretary was telling Ghanaians this. And indeed, President Mahama did not pay much to any of these depositors. And yet today, he says that if we voted for him, in 1 year, he was going to pay the depositors. So look at the shifting positions. You remember he told us in 2016 and 2012 that anything free was not good. That the concept of free was bad. And that free did not come with quality and access and all of that. He and his party went as far as to go and bring the voices of innocent people. I remember the Honorable J.H. Mensah, I remember the good Pastor Otabel. They went and brought their voices, all in an effort to show Ghanaians that free was not good. But today, what do we see from President Mahama? He is promising free. He says you do free primary health care. We don't quite know what that means. He says you do free primary health care. Now, I understand they say they would, even university fees will be free or something. Now, this is the leader who didn't believe in freebies and said that the people who were promising freebies, and there was something wrong with them, and that very soon they're going to promise free air. Now look at him. He's promising freebies all over the place. Clearly, a leader who doesn't stay true to his principles to what he says. We all remember the famous matter of free SHS and the efforts that President Mahama and his government put into it to tell Ghanaians that free SHS was not good for the people of this country. That it would collapse our education system, it would destroy quality, it would destroy access to a secondary education. Other African countries had tried it, they had collapsed. We all remember. They organized demonstrations and marches on the streets to tell Ghanaians free SHS was not good. Today, what is President Mahama telling us? He says that he actually brought free SHS. He actually brought free SHS. And so we should vote for him because he would know how to move free SHS forward. So all the battle that he and his party waged in 2012 and 2016 against free SHS, how is he now calling himself the founder of free SHS in this country? It shows clearly that President Mahama is not true to his principles, he's not true to his words, and it's almost like he's without shame, as the free SHS matter provides. When every Ghanaian will know that you were against free SHS, today you are able to tell us that you actually brought free SHS. Now, we remember in 2015, 2016, President Mahama told us that he was not going to accept criticism from people who have not been presidents before. You remember that clearly, don't we? He said, you haven't been president, so how do you know how a president should govern? and that he would only take criticism from people who have been presidents before. He naturally then went on to tell us the people that he would take criticism for. And he named them. He said President Kufuor and President Rawlings. They are the people that he would take criticism from because they have been presidents before. Now, this was in response to criticism from leaders like Dr. Bawumia. Now, if he's able to tell people like Dr. Bawumia this, can you imagine what he would tell ordinary people of this country? Now, you remember, he also told us when he was asked to account for the loans and the monies that have come into the Ghanaian coffers since he was president. Remember the answer? He said you people should go to parliament and find out. It wasn't his duty to tell you anything. And you remember when he characterized himself as a dead goat, which means he was impervious to criticism. A dead goat fears no knife. Now, what is distressing here is that here is a president who is looking for re-election for another 4 years and is able to have this attitude to Ghanaians, to tell you that you cannot criticize him unless you have been president before, to tell you that he's a dead goat, to tell you to go elsewhere for answers as to monies that he has received. If he has this attitude when he was looking for another 4 years, and this is his attitude, can you imagine the attitude President Ghanaian will show to Ghanaians if we elect him for another 4 years, this time knowing that he doesn't have to come back for re-election, how he will treat us? If even knowing that he will come for re-election, these are some of the attitude that he displayed. Can you imagine if we vote for him again and he doesn't have to come back? The attitude that he will show to us. Now, contrast that with President Akufo-Addo. President Akufo-Addo has demonstrated firm leadership. He has shown that his word is his bond and that he is going to govern on the basis of principle and consistency. That with him, you know where you stand. President Akufo-Addo, by contrast, presents a stable, firm, steadfast, principled leadership. He has largely kept his promises. Of course, in a political democracy, you would always have people who would disagree as to the estimate of his success. But there can be no doubt that he has provided to the Ghanaian people firm and focused leadership and is delivering his promises. Free SHS, he's delivering on it. The creation of new regions, which has always been an aspiration of a lot of our people, and they've agitated for it for a long time, and promises have been made to them by political parties in and out. President Akufo-Addo has delivered the creation of the new regions, as he said he would. One district, one factory is taking Ghana to the cherished aim of being an industrial nation. And is ongoing. And this is what he wants to continue. One village, one dam is ongoing. So that there will come a time when our brothers and sisters in the north can farm all year round instead of just one season and reduce poverty greatly. All of these are national aspirations. One village, one dam, dry season farming in the north, in an industrial country, new regions, free secondary schools, even in the constitution. All of these have been national aspirations. It is President Akufo-Addo who is delivering these aspirations with a clear and focused leadership, with a great deal of success. He may not be 100% successful at this time, but you will agree that it has been a great deal, a very great degree of success. In fact, he was given the title recently by one of our big chiefs as the promise keeper. Look at Dagbon. Since 2002, our brothers and sisters in Dagbon suffered from the conflict, the chieftaincy conflict. President Akufo-Addo promised that when he's elected, he will lead the people of Dagbon and the people of this country to peace. And he has done just that. So now he has the title, Na Abudani the First. Look at Obuasi Goldfields, that iconic goldfields in the Ashanti region, which has been touted as the single richest gold mine. It collapsed under President Mahama. According to the Asantehene, they offered the mine to him for $1. That means it was worthless. President Akufo-Addo promised that he will revive, do all he can to revive that great mine. As we speak, Obuasi mine is up and running, employing thousands of Ghanaians in that area. We all saw the commissioning ceremony. The Asantehene himself was almost in tears that he could see that day of the Obuasi mine being reopened and commissioned. We've talked about the efforts at industrialization. Many of us would agree that since Kwame Nkrumah, President Nkrumah in 1966, you have not seen the kind of drive and commitment to industrialization that President Akufo-Addo has shown in the last 4 years. Look at what President Mahama did with industrialization. You can only describe it by looking at what happened at Commander Sugar Factory. That is the typical state of industrialization under President Mahama. Compare and contrast that to what Akufo-Addo is achieving for this country in terms of industrialization. Look at railways, transport and railway infrastructure. When I was much, much younger, in my teens and so on, we used to travel by rail. They had a blue train and they had a sleeper. I was a very little boy at that time, but I remember my mother used to travel with me on the train. It has collapsed. President Kufuor made a big effort to revive it, starting with the Accra-Tema line and also the Accra-Nsawam line. When he left office in the 8 years that President Mahama was vice president and president, there was not much movement on the railways. Today, we are all seeing a major effort and drive to revive rail transport in this country. You cannot deny it. It's all over the place. So a vote for President Akufo-Addo is a sure bet that railways will come back into the center of transportation in this country. The Vice President, Dr. Bawumia, spoke to us last week about the joys of digitization that the government is delivering for the people of this country. What made me even more happier was the rollout of the free Wi-Fi program to our educational institutions. So very soon, Ghanaian students will not have to worry about connectivity and about data. He or she can connect to the rest of the world and be part of the global citizenship. And all of this is the promise of another 4 years of President Akufo-Addo. There is another contrast between the two personalities. The leadership ability in times of crisis. Look at President Akufo-Addo's leadership in this COVID pandemic time. Compare that to the leadership that President Mahama offered us during the crisis of Dumsor. Just compare and contrast. In the 4 years of Dumsor between 2013 to 2016, 2017, President Mahama fed us with one false promise to another false promise to another false promise throughout the entire period. Now, people in distress, what they needed from their leader was candor and hope. What we were given were lies and false promises. And if we had time, we could go through all the dates that President Mahama promised the country Dumsor was going to be over, and it turned out to be worse. There was one occasion that I remember very well, where he said that he had solved Dumsor. This was in 2013. He had solved Dumsor, and I should be given a new title, Kaniahene. And that now when people saw him, they should say, Mimamu Kaniao Ya Mahama. You all remember. And the next day, there was a nationwide blackout. So this is the kind of leadership offered during the crisis. Compare that to the crisis leadership offered by President Akufo-Addo. He himself is leading the communication. He has galvanized the entire country behind him. He's made significant interventions like free water, free electricity to cushion millions of Ghanaians who have been affected badly by the pandemic. Our businesses are being given solace by schemes such as the CAP Boss, administered by the National Board for Small Scale Industry. And you can see the effect in the revival of the Ghanaian economy. And the statistics show that this year the Ghanaian economy will be one of the 10 fastest growing economies in the whole world in this COVID time. In fact, the United Nations, the committee that they call the Lancet COVID-19 Commission, which is headed by the respected development economist, Professor Jeffrey Sachs, in their report in September 2020, indicated that Ghana's response to the COVID-19 crisis has been quite, and I'm quoting them, exceptional. And they went on to say that a small West African country's name is boldly written in gold among countries that have used their meager resources to achieve excellence in preventing the spread of COVID-19. And this is quoted in the Daily Mail newspaper of London. This is the leadership that has been offered by President Akufo-Addo in a crisis. Compare that to the crisis leadership that was offered by President Mahama. Look at corruption. You would agree that the last 4 years, the inertia that characterized the fight against corruption is no more there. Of course, our NDC friends will disagree. They will, as soon as you speak to them about corruption, they will say, PDS, Japan, and so on. PDS, the president was not happy with some of the documentation and processes. So what did he do? He canceled PDS against the wishes of the almighty Americans. You remember? The president canceled it. And yet, they will tell us that it's an example of the president not fighting corruption. Even this Ejapa is still on paper, largely. Still on paper. They were asked not to proceed until the special prosecutor did his risk assessment, so they stopped. After the risk assessment, the president has said the whole thing should be reviewed, but should go back to Parliament, and any dangers that have been pointed out should be redone. And yet they will throw a japat at you to say that is an example of the president not fighting corruption. But be that as it may, ladies and gentlemen, you would agree that there can be no debate that President Mahama, in the period between 2009 and 2016, engaged in conduct which directly indicted himself and the high office of the presidency in personal, direct corruption. There can be no debate about that. We all remember the Ford saga, where the gentleman himself was caught on tape saying that he was looking for contracts. He couldn't get contracts. He was led to President Mahama, at that time vice president, and then he started getting contracts. He got some big job to construct a wall in the Ghanaian embassy in Burkina. Huge contract, almost $1 million. And then he proceeded then to get a lot of road contracts and so on. And in his own words, he sent President Mahama a Ford car, which clearly went against all the ethics of good governance and anti-corruption. And of course, we remember Airbus, where testimony before the courts in England and America have told us that bribes were paid to President Mahama's brother so some influence can be exerted. These are records before courts, international courts and so on. Like I said, by contrast, you cannot get President Akufo-Addo directly being indicted personally in such blatant corruption. So there's no gain saying that the fight against corruption in the next 4 years is safer in President Akufo-Addo's hands than in President Mahama's hands. Look at the way President Mahama treated his own people from the north. Remember how he titled himself in the campaign of 2012 and 2016 as the candidate from the north. You remember? He even said Bawumia was vice president, so he cannot be somebody who can move the north forward, that he should be the presidential candidate. Now the candidate from the north, look at the way he treated his people. Came and formed something called SADA, Savannah Accelerated Development Authority. Said he was going to use it as a vehicle to accelerate development in the north. And of course, SADA was turned to one of the biggest corruption vehicles in the history of this country. We all remember, monies were paid, $9 million to go and cultivate a guinea fowl, I confirm. As we speak, there's no single guinea fowl produced by that company. $18 million were paid to that same company to go and do afforestation. They said afforestation was going to relieve poverty in the north. $18 million were paid. As we speak, you don't find any forest in those places. This is the record. So, why should the people of the north put their faith in President Mahama? And today, as we speak, SADA, the word SADA, and I confirm, have become entrenched in the corruption lexicon of this country. This is a clear example of why we should not take President Mahama over Abudani Akufo-Addo. Remember the presidential debates in 2016 when President Mahama was president? He said he was not going to take part in any presidential debates unless the conditions were his own terms. That he didn't like the IEA, which had conducted presidential debates since when? 2000 or so. President Mahama in 2016 said he wasn't going to take part in the debates organized by the IEA, and that he would take, if he would take part in a debate, these are the terms he would take part in the debate. Now look at him in 2020. He wants a debate under any circumstances. In fact, Akufo-Addo should name the place and name the set the questions and name the panelists and the people who ask the questions and the venue. Akufo-Addo should name all of it. Here's a man who in 2016 said he will not take part in a debate unless it's under his own terms. And indeed, the IEA debate, he didn't take part. Now today he says he will take part in a debate under any conditions. You see the inconsistency? Now, there is a very terrible issue that came up after the 2016 elections. We all remember that President Mahama requested that his official residence where he was residing should be given to him as a retirement benefit. We remember. Of course, there was a national outcry, so that desire of his could not be fulfilled. Two things that come up to show the premeditation that this was what President Mahama had intended. They were building a new residence for the vice president. That new residence is at, I don't know what they call it, is it Ridge or something? Sorry?
Australia House.
No, not Australia House. It's, is it Cantonments or Ridge? I'm not too sure. Yes, on that road by the fire service headquarters. Now, because he wanted to take where he was living as a retirement benefit. The strange thing is that he was president. He wasn't retiring. So that decision was not made, or it doesn't seem to have been made after the elections. because they had started the building of a new residence for the vice president. So it's a very strange situation. Now, even the new residence we are building for the vice president, Asedun Ketia told us, he showed documents to you, the media, that the money being used to build the residence, the new residence, was $3 million. It turns out that President Mahama's government had committed $13 million for that project, even though it wasn't completed, and it is still not completed. But there's another issue that arises from this that you need to consider, the Ghanaian people need to consider. It is that after the 2016 elections, it seemed that President Mahama intended to retire. And that's why he asked for that building as part of his retirement benefits. So now that he's contesting again, it's a clear case of changing his mind again. It's a clear case of the inconsistency. Because very clearly, if he didn't mean to retire, he wasn't going to ask for that property. So it's a very strange issue that, for us, goes to the core of President Mahama's leadership. And you remember the huge public outcry and the way it painted all of us politicians as greedy people and so on. Now, there's not enough space for my papers. So, ladies and gentlemen, what we have done is to give you instances that show that President Mahama is not the leader you are looking for if you are looking for a focused leadership. That the records so far show us that he vacillates, he flip-flops, he's inconsistent, he obeys the wind, turns whichever way the wind is blowing. And this is not the kind of leadership that you need at this moment. You need the caring, imaginative, but resolute leadership that President Akufo-Addo has demonstrated. On December 7, 2020, next Monday, we must make a judgment call. And this is a judgment about our future as a people, and our future as a country, and our future, the future of our children. We cannot be partial in this judgment because it is a judgment about our own welfare and our progress as a people. We cannot be partial. We must vote for a leadership that we know is best for us at this time. And the opinion polling that I had referred to earlier show clearly that Ghanaians are already in that direction of voting for a resolute but caring and imaginative leader. It is the best for us. Let's vote for Ghana. Let's vote for President Akufo-Addo. I thank you all for your attention. I think we'll take some questions or something.
We'll do the tree.
This is something else.
My boss will do the tree. Then afterwards, we'll do the question.
Oh, why don't we do the tree so those who want to leave can then leave? Why don't we do the questions? Okay. Yo. Enuanom. Ewia ye share mu wa ha. Ya sema di tu mani me tietia. Said na wotwe December 7, Joada ebe ye kwa koto aba eyi onipa obedi oman anim efri 2021 kosi 2024 na yasema yede betu mu anima ne se sa abatu a ye kwa koto yi ye toma President Mahama da boy ho abro nansen no boni fe no opinion polling aba yete Beneps in there ye minua Beneps in there yate political science department there omunya kire se abana ye ba beto no President Akufo-Addo edi anim ama ye nwa no mandis for ye ma hye pa nti omo ye nima bia emfata nansen makofa video bi omo de to social media ese President Akufo-Addo 2016 na oje bribe in the office. Na ohwe video na eye nipa bia ebe na doye ede mmoa kakra sika kakra ni t-shirt say ebre no so they hear the campaign obia we elections bia adofo eye wa doye ede bibi kakra bro na be boa campaign and na amini we say okwa nipa wo ho mo di NDC ye di adoye come out no di ayom campaign nipa wo ho a ye di NPP for Asia ye di adoye mom political campaign donation there time bia baby a isi na mo akofa video e di aba say eye bribe obi ono nya president na ye candidate there okoji bribe there den je no betima ya ma we nya kire say opinion polling na eba na mind this for no yam hwehwem to mo ye bibia including em I am fata na ma kire mo say open bribe and kasa men kwachiri yenye be kai 2016 tama President Mahama president NDC for kotam bribe man Alhaji Bugri Nabu sata no ye regional chairman for NPP amu man usika 500,000 any car 4x4 kesiye baako say onkuntia NPP some obekai ya the car no be see ha na ye ni mu share the tram ti wenya kire say ye nwan medis for no ma ye desperate because opinion polling na ye ba na man Ghana for him omon koso a na say no opinion polls na kire no omon type President Akufo-Addo achi na wo hwe President Mahama ni kandifo na leadership no dey ba menwa enye leadership a isipim papa no sisana no ono ankasa nsema oka on se onjindi infama no boa no asisana no yenwa no mkranfo friend no rock papa obey the wind obi a infama boa no asisa wa no na nipa say ukofa no so no be di o man anima ubebo o man na bro ntina so amede kan we hwa yase kwase na onsisa na dwen obi wo ho bi a ugina baabi na bia nsem foforo aba wo hwe nsem na wo say o asem we abaye tom ntima mesa madwen but say de bia osisa wa dwen a and they are dangerous na hwe President Mahama ni yo ya tem bia osisa na dwen na njina so ni bi ni say yenye ebe kai tama oye president university for you twa mu electricity ni nsuo ma o aban twa ma o ba no betwa mu o say hu hia sa aban betwa President Akufo-Addo ba no wasan so ya man e wo university no wasan so masen afei de President Mahama oye campaign o si o onu so age atum oba onu so beto aso na watwa utility bills and my students na chese asema dwenkyerɛ any no year 2016 no any no can say no ebobra so be kai training allowances for yenwanu a called nursing school and yenwanu a called teaching school allowance kakra no moji no President Mahama betray him ase ehu hia emfata so maji sa allowances no na sa asem yo mututia no kra on mine yentuntia no na ogide se obedin kunim President Akufo-Addo bae wasan the allowances aba a ɔde sɔ yɛn nua no mama sen yɛn nua no ma ɔmo nursing training ne teacher training deɛ na president Mahama kan ne ɔsi ɔno nso ɔba a wagye atum obetwia nursing training ne teacher training allowances nso obi a n'adwen ehihim engina faako n'adwen kɔ beebi a mframa no bɔ waka kyerɛ yɛn afi wei sɛ yɛtɔ abama no ɔba abɛsesa mfomsoɔ ɔyɛɛ nanso ontumi nya akokuduro ɛnkyerɛ yɛ mfomsoɔ a ɔyɛɛ ɛne ɛkwan a ɔbɛfa so ɛde asiesie mfomsoɔ no sɛ yɛto ma no a na sɛ ɔyɛ ɔbobi a woyɛ kandifoɔ a woyɛ wakokuduro a na ofi sɛ wafom nipa na odi omanim na ɛsɛ otimi ba na agye tum sɛ o wei ni am yɛ no ɛm sɛ manye ne yie nti mo fa nkyɛ me na mo san fa me mmra na me ba mɛsesa mɛyɛ na kwan foforɔ sei ni sei na nipa na hu sɛ we are serious na we de waka no tra sɛ ɔba wa be correcting the mistakes nso yɛ ni mistake ɔyɛ ɔka kyerɛ in 2016 sɛ enipa a ɔmo ni aban mu no ɔmo ba na ɔmo yɛ promises bɔhyɛ ɔmo bam na ɔmo yɛ bɔhyɛ kyerɛ mu a ma mo ngye ɔmo ntum efisɛ ɔmo ni aban mu ɔmo nim sɛ na aban mu te nti ɔmo bɔhyɛ na ɔmo yɛ nyia no ngyinasoɔ no ɛnyɛ papa saa na ɔka kyerɛ 2016 ɛnɛ ɔno nso ɛyɛ politician a ɔnni aban mu ɔno nso ɛyɛ bɔhyɛ ɔno nso yɛ bɔhyɛ ɔno nso hyɛ bɔ anamboa nti woka kyerɛ yɛn 2016 sɛ obi a ɔnni aban mu bɛ hyɛ bɔ a mamu ntie na so pɛm na ɛnɛ wo nso wonni aban mu na wohyɛ bɔ yi sɛne yɛntie no ɔka kyerɛ yɛn 2016 sɛ mfie nnan ne yɛde ma president no esua koraa nti president biara hia mfie nwɔtwe it is a sadia president Akufo-Addo wadi mfie nnan ade na woka kyerɛ Ghana for sɛ yɛnyini mfiri cause wo si mfie nnan ne so a mfie nwɔtwe na president biara hia nti adenti na wo yɛ campaign sɛ yɛntu president Akufo-Addo ana ɔma ne mfie nwɔtwe na wa woka kyerɛ Ghana for ɔsan ka kyerɛ sɛ sɛ yɛto abama no a yɛnwa no mu sika kemu wɔ banks no ɔba yɛto abama no a afe baako obetwa sika ni nyaa so we Ghana for yɛgye tuma enye yie efisɛ saa time na banks no adwuma no yɛ no basa no a no mutimi ntwea Ghana for sika de akoto banks no tema na president Mahama yɛ ɔtamu sika podo no the bank managers no any bank shareholders no meboa billions and billions of Ghana cedis eno kra so na ni ankodi akire ama sa sika no so de koso ma sel meme ni usika eno so mo hwere sika no na Ghana for ankra na ego sika wo bank ho de 1 2 na ni ahwe obia ye be ka yera ase edu nketia o kan say wa du sika ko to bank na usika na kemu a we dey fa ban ho ben samokai ama mpa so president Mahama nhyeda anboa Ghana for musika kokem nti ene no be ka kyerɛ nse ye to abama no a if afi ba ko enso obetwa sika no a ese ebisa na sem pa o ka kyerɛ 2016 sɛ bibia ye free no enhyeda nye papa ye nipa omo kan sɛ ne ye buy be we free on beka sem from apo be free na omo nye papa nti ma Ghana for ntie okofa nipa bi omti on ba bi JH Mensa pastor Ota bokofa omone de beto media so say omo so ka say bibia ye free no enye na say ne de na president Mahama ye or promise free health care and no pay credit I'll say free university fees. In terms of my system manifesto, minimum say one statement no. I'm so my system manifesto no. No my university is so free. Now NDC under President Mahama any the only political party omo amendi omo manifesto 6 days to elections. Meaning say mo hu bi dade a. Na him say ena no pay scholarship secretary at the Tudra. Say President Akufo-Addo amoma yen hwehwe a betimi ama yenwan mo free secondary school o metimi anya scholarships o me be ya de no mo de akọ university. Na him say no nti President Mahama ne o ma so madwen. Afei dem so be free university education. 6 days to election. Then some go some manifesto. Means e bin see that. Ti when ya chere President Mahama no na dwen engineer faako. Na yakra chain nya ni free SHS. Enya kai ahoden a President Mahama ne NDC di shame e chere Ghana for say free SHS no enye. Na say bibi anke betimi ayanka President Nkrumah na ye. The better crab 20 years actually. President Mahama na jina CPSO catcher and say desperate politicians no more free SHS ever. See a kai. Is another no catcher? Otime jina CPSO catcher and say free SHS no crab. Or not the buy. Or say your President Akufo-Addo na the buy. Or no President Mahama na the buy. Aden, uni any wo. Uni any wo. Na adia subako a eyayem hwehwe. President Mahama ka kire en se undi president da. Uni hu kwan se obeka ne ho asem. Na nipa so mo ka ne ho asem a obetie. Eye nipa mienu. President Rollins and President Kufuor. If it's somebody the president da. Na so timi kan we kire sorry Dr. Baumia. Na me ne wo de no timi kan kire. Osan koso kan say o hwehwe adwuma odi Ghana fo sika aya membisa no. Ono ayato abama no o si membisa no ko parliament na ko hwehwe o kan we kire Ghana for o sa ka kire Ghana for so no o ye dwanfun dead goat on throw knife na be kan fa ne hu bia anya de a o de be yetu o ye dwanfun na enipa o pese o ko ni Ghana for na so na o ko sre say yensan to aba maw na utimi ni omo kasa okwan we so a say Ghana for ko to aba ma no next na o hwe ebe eno no to aba ma na on sign emba wo nanso biem ohia so san be ma no another chance hwa se mo be ka kire 2016 pu ano ba be sre say yensan ma no mfie 9 ka ho no otimi kan catch Ghana for say onye president a untimi kan ho ase no e dwamfun na ope say uhu na odi Ghana for sika ya ko parliament ko hwe na eni mekasa oni aniwu a nya say me mpenase na say onu President Mahama ebisa se NPP aban no tebe na de Ghana for sika ya samukai Asi ya meche no ne de Ghana for sika ye. Ema Dr. Baumia esan to ne bo. Ema no muaye niema e de Ghana for sika ye nya President Baumia esan de ma President Mahama. Ndi mo hu susun ya eda enipa mienu ne ntam. Na who they compare President Akufo-Addo? President Akufo-Addo no. Uni baby a ujina. Him by heart. This is President Mahama. Into uhwehwe kandinia ene Ghana ye timi ye hia kandinia onim na drain eye stable ejina ho. Him by heart. Now come President Akufo-Addo. Oba ye nneɛma ohia ɔman no free tete. President bi aba ɔkasa ɔbɛyɛ. Ɔno nso se yɛto abama na ɔbɛyɛ. Nyankopɔn yɛ no mmoa na ɔba aban mu yi. Ɔyɛ no ahoɔden mu. Free SHS. And the constitution since 1992. Aban bi antimi nyɛ. President Akufo-Addo at the free SHS aba. One district, one factory. If we yera Kwame Nkrumah breso. Yenyi agye atum sɛ so man bɛkɔ ne nimpa etumpɔn a na ɛkyɛ industrialization. Government bia in the Fourth Republic ɛnfa ahoɔden ba sɛ adwuma ne so industrialization adwuma ne so ɛkyɛn President Akufo-Addo ɛwɔ one district, one factory program. Opɛ sɛ ɔhwɛ kwan a President Mahama ɛde industrialization ɛfa so a mɛnkɔ baabi a kɔ commander na kɔwɛ sugar factory no ɔyɛ. Ene ahemfo omo to President Akufo-Addo din promise keeper obi a ohyebo a odi so hwe asema ebeto yenwa no bo dagbon e free 2002 ye pre se asomdwe beba ho no manya omo hene President Akufo-Addo hyebo se oba ye to abama no a obeye no betimi aye bia ma asomdwe abadagbon ena me no mo kasa asomdwe abadagbon yesi hene ya na ewo ho wo yendi President Akufo-Addo na mu ya mano ya bokonya man na abudani the first because of age man dagbon what dey aba e me na asomdwe aba ho mo hwe Obuasi Goldfields President Mahama breso wantimi amia ahweso yie ama adwuma no ebeguye yera asante hene akachira nse Obuasi Goldfields omde man so onto no $1 aje adwuma no gu President Akufo-Addo share yem bosses ye to abama no a obeye no betimi aye bia ma Obuasi Goldfields no asan pagya gina ni naso ena amede mo kase wadi so Obuasi Goldfields ejina ni naso afa Ghana for thousands and thousands omo ye adwuma we obi a ohyebo a odiso time na ye commission ye bia no for the second time ohwe ye ra asante hini a na niso kra nke niso ya ate no ohwe railways train beye 30-40 years egu ewo Ghana ha President Kufuor baye omia na nipa e de Accra Tema Railway no e baye o san de Accra Nsawan Railway e baye President Mahama be vice president the president the free 2009 kosi 2016 o anfa nani anhwe railways President Akufo-Addo baye o she boss o ba be hwe railways because o man bia o pese o tumpon uhia railways nene ejuma President Akufo-Addo eye oni minua Jogate on railways enye juma ketwa mza yen share down bo hu dero but to call from a obe hu ejuma ye ni a pagya railway transport e wo memu ha na otwe etwa mi yera ba umia e de tudwa nhihye ya aban no ye na sa digitization ni aba o memu ha na boa o membum ye mu bi obi beka say bi born before computer now so ye man no de omuntimi ndwane free computer aban no ye nhihye se na be ya ye mano digitization a be enje omo ho na mda na mi de wo mu kra ne se free wifi na e ba for schools e wo Ghana ha a o ma shase because when him say answer na sa digitization ni obetimi adimu akotene no uhia data uhia connectivity uhia fiber President Kufuor na de buy nenne President Akufo-Addo ebe ye free wifi ama ye school si into to abama President Akufo-Addo o to abama oba daachi o to aba ama free wifi for uma ɛne wo nua nketewa no na wo san pɛ sɛ wo ho susu yɛ da nipa mmienu ntam a hwɛ kwan a wɔde fa ɔman no fa so time a onene bi crisis onene ɛbɛto ɔman yi oyene sɛ ɔbɛka yɛ President Mahama brɛ so dum sɔ mfie 9 ne akyire hwɛ kwan a ɔde Ghanafoɔ fa so ntrɔ ne ndaadaa nipa a yɛakɔ ahokyerɛ mu because of dum sɔ na ɔna yɛ kandini na ɛsɛ wotumi ɛka biribi kyerɛ nipa na ɛbɛma ɔmo nkran ɛbɛhyɛ ɔmo nkran na ɔyɛ biribi a ɛbɛma ɔbrɛ no a ahokyerɛ no ɔmo brɛ no ɛho ɛso ate President Mahama ntumi anyɛ biribiara ɛbɛma Ghanafoɔ ɔmo abrabo ɛso ɛyɛ ɔmo amanehu a na ɔmo hu no akɔ fam na mmom na ɔyɛ no sɛ ndaadaa ɔsɛ o dum sɔ ma yɛ ne yie metwam adeɛ kye a na ayɛ wes edu baabi korɔ ɔmaa ne ho bɔ ne ho mmerane ɔsɛ sɛ ɔyɛ kanea hene nti wofrɛ no a mamu kanea o ne agye so yɛ Mahama adeɛ kye a dum sɔ no koraa de afei deɛ ɛbɛ nationwide wei ni leadership a President Mahama de maa yɛ oyɛ ne saa bɛto yɛ ɛnɛ a mene mu kasa yi dum sɔ ɛyɛ Ghana for kasa abɛdane international language for blackouts because of President Mahama hwɛ onene yɛ ne abɛto yɛ yɛfrɛ no COVID-19 hwɛ kwan a leadership can di nia can sɛna President Akufo-Addo edi ɔman n'anim ɔno a gyina simpie so na ɔde ɔman no ɔka no kware kyerɛ yɛ baabi a yɛareɛ no du baabi kwan a yɛfa so ɛnɛ sɛ mo ka biribi yɛfrɛ no fellow Ghanaians because of leadership a President Akufo-Addo show here during this COVID crisis. Fellow Ghanaians are better than part of our political term. No share share they about free electricity, free water. It is so Ghana for us saying. You been see that? We call United Nations the way we born a baswa or kwanya or their faswa. We are Ghana near a man just a show crime. Ma o feel proud. O ban corruption katashishe. Sa tibo na President Mahama breso corruption ba yentimi yede emfaso. Ene etwem na utie yenwan mandisi fo a omzo PDS echese President Akufo-Addo ontimi nkuntia corruption. PDS President Akufo-Addo ni twem anamboa. Ono twem. And look, Americans to say almost per PDS no na bibia from Sobia ni so. President Akufo-Addo General ni naso train. Emergency crest KBS Americans ni ba man famba. Tia den na ultimate PDS about President Akufo-Addo so bo. Ya den. Nipa na onu train. Uhun say nye no train. America for kwa no this kan no ba no. Omsi o train ma mo first kan no ma. Nso General ni naso. Ya den ade bo no so bo. Ejapai afei na eba ewo krata so nhyehyɛ a ɛwɔ ho a ɛsɛ ɔmo yɛ ɔmo gyae because na special prosecutor so bɛ so ɔhwehwɛ mu wie President Akufo-Addo say yɛnsan nyɛ ade ne nyinaa foforɔ ɛdɛ na ɔde wei ɛbɔ no so bɔ but no ɔyɛ no nyinaa firi nkyɛn a ɔhwɛ President Mahama ne President Akufo-Addo a ɔde ɔmo mmienu si hɔ a ɔntumi nya katahyehyɛ biara ubetini de ato President Akufo-Addo so directly when on one kasa nipadua no na so President Mahama when nyakra ubenya Ford car no no president name na oje bibi a free obi a yema ne contract nipa na num obekan one car krabekai Airbus nipa na mu eje atum se omo ma obi $5 million bribe because nipa near President Mahama nyua say na be on benya contract into all the corruption crowd to wha nipa mienu no o pese o hwehwe nipa obetimi akon etia corruption e wo Ghana in the next 4 years untimi mfa President Mahama and to President Akufo-Addo hwe sada President Mahama yenya ni bebi ofri north ono atu ni hu so no ye the candidate from the north to no betimi a peja development for new anuma one off. So no catch in 2012 and 2016. About 2009 about between. No kofa adi bi also friend no SADA. Savannah Accelerated Development Authority. So no dey ba be peja mpontuo e wo north. Now so yen baby esi here. Omo fa sa SADA isu e di Ghana fosika jese untimi nka corruption a unka SADA. Tam millions and millions of dollars. Say the Korean confirm. And ne ye who confirm no back. Time millions and millions of dollars. Say the Korean quiet. It was enough. True SADA. And then will be acquired no more. Says $9 million, $18 million. Ghana for your free says come. I mean ne see I can't catastrophe, I can't corruption. SADA. Confirm abedani kasa ne bi ti nipa say na de no ye kasa ye hwehwe obi a obetimi aboa mpuntu wo north o de ne beto na Abudani the first Akufado ntimi and net President Akufado aban the largest single investment in the north Polugu Dam. The largest single investment in the north, President Akufado, led the other. The Union no more was rim, O Quacotua Ba, Mawadrin Emras and Yemeso, Nakotua Bapa. Sir President Mahama Ebremo Sada, not the Brem, fast who yes Sikepi, and Agana Shri Sikepi. President Akufado, or the Asunjuya Badagbon. Polugu Dam, the largest single investment ever north. Into free north now Kotua Ba, no ma wa drink abanye mesu. Yebeka say President Mahama o free so 2016. O say fear na o man fear the man or tinemu. E free 2009. O say ye man no fen kofie. Se bunya mo kai. Na eneno President Mahama Esan president, not just say on-call retirement. Anambwa. Into on-call retirement, I didn't know Pesa Dino in 2016. But then Namadrin Yemen say, or lose elections 2016, or you're not doing so about retirement. Into no bisa for retirement benefits. Emphasize a Japanese say, Enfemano. Now, so or say Gina president, not just our senses are not dream. Not dream in Gina Falcon, not dream him. Inti, when president, South Alabama President Mahama, Ubenya, ewa Ghana. I mean, Jean, this Ghana for a bedjessa presidential style atu. Obia not dream him. Obia. Ni leadership no ye obey the wind. Baby and from abono. Oho no oko. Inti binwanum. Na wotwe a ebe, meme joada a ebe. Ye koto abano a. Ese ehun se ye ko court akodi ya nkasa yasem. Ye koto abano ama ye hu. As Ghana for ema ye ma ene ye man. Into where the Okoto Abano ama wankasa ohu. Na ukoye sa judgment na. Untimi enye partial. Oto abama wa untimi enye partial. To aba wa unimse ebeboa wankasa. Mesdames et yeah. Clearly in order. Give me one.